Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. Today's episode comes to you courtesy of Liam, who's been supporting this channel as a Golden Pig tier patron. I truly couldn't do this without the support from amazing patrons like Liam, so again, Liam, thank you so much. And actually today, Liam's gonna handle the intro for me.
Hey Mitch, this is Liam from Peterborough, Ontario. For my deck tech, I'd like to see you build around Greven, Predator Captain, focusing on his abilities and getting him through for commander damage.
So, like Liam said, today's deck text can be built around Greven, Predator Captain. Greven is a 5/5 human warrior with menace that costs 3 black-red. Greven gets +X/+0, or X the amount of life you've lost this turn. And on top of that, whenever Greven attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, you draw cards equal to that creature's power, and you lose life equal to that creature's toughness. So, Greven has the ability to swing big, I mean really big, because again, it's based off the amount of life that you've lost this turn as to how much it gets pumped. And while swinging big, Greven can also draw you a lot of cards and lose you some more life to pump it further. So you're going to have quite a few creatures that you actually want to sacrifice with this commander. And on top of that, we're going to have plenty of ways to actually control our life total so that, we can just drop our life total to whatever we need to one-shot an opponent. Of course, on top of that, we're going to also have a lot of ways to get Greven through. Menace is good, but we've got ways to make it even better. So yeah, getting to 21 commander damage is absolutely no problem with Greven, Predator Captain. So let's jump into some cards that can really help us out in achieving this goal. First up, let's talk about some ways to get Greven through, starting off with Sonorous Hellbonder. It's a 2/2 human warrior with menace that says each creature you control with menace can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. So menace is already an effective mechanic, making our opponents block with at least 2 creatures on Greven, but this takes it to another level. Forcing them to dedicate 3 creatures to block with is a lot, and some of our opponents won't even have 3 creatures out, which essentially makes Greven unblockable, and then that opponent is very much in trouble. Next up, Carter Doomscourge helps out in a different way. It's a 4/3 Demon Berserker that when it enters the battlefield until your next turn, creatures your opponents control attack each combat of Fable and attack a player other than you of Fable. Essentially, goad your opponent's creatures when this ETBs. On top of that, whenever an attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So this is sort of like a Zulaport Cutthroat type card, but for attacking creatures. But more importantly, this goads our opponent's creatures, and yeah, now they gotta swing out at each other, and Greven is gonna be able to get through. Another way to get Greven through is with flying with something like Fleet Feather Sandals. It's an equipment that has Equip 2, and equipped creature has flying and haste. So this allows Greven to swing right away, and it makes it even more difficult to block. Because now in order to block Greven, you actually need 2 flyers that you're willing to block with. Now, these cards help Greven get through in most situations, but of course we've got some cards that can get Greven through no matter what. First up, there's Vorak Battlehorns, which is the perfect card for any menace creature. It's an equipment with Equip 1, it says equipped creature has trample and can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. So, Menace says that they can't block Greven unless, 2 creatures block it, and Vorak Battlehorns, when attached to Greven, says, well, now you can't block it with more than 1 creature. So, since our opponents can't block it with 2 creatures, and they can't block it with 1 creature, well, they just can't block Greven. So, while also giving Greven trample is nice, it's pretty much completely unnecessary with this. But another way to make Greven unblockable is with something like Key to the City. It has tap, discard a card, up to 1 target creature can't be blocked this turn. And whenever Key to the City becomes untapped, we can pay 2. If we do, we draw a card. So this can essentially help us get Greven through and also help us loot at the same time. And of course, a fantastic land like Rogue's Passage can really help us out as well. It can tap for a colorless, but more importantly, we can pay 4 and tap it, and target creature can't be blocked this turn. This being on a land is huge because, again, this basically doesn't really take up a slot in our deck. But now that we've talked about some ways to get Greven through, let's talk about some ways to make the most out of that hit. Cards like Mischievous Poltergeist, Immolating Soul Eater, and Wall of Blood are fantastic for this kind of a deck. Mischievous Poltergeist might just be a 1/1 flyer, but it has pay 1 life, regenerate Mischievous Poltergeist. So this card allows us to completely control our life loss. If we're swinging with Greven and we got through before we're dealing our damage, we can just pay 16 life, and then all of a sudden, Greven is a 21/5, and yeah, that's death by commander damage. And again, since Mischievous Poltergeist can easily regenerate, it's really hard for our opponents to deal with once we get it out. And then Immolating Soul Eater can help us out in a similar yet different way. It's a 1/1 hound that has pay for Xing red. Immolating Soul Eater gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Basically, this has fire breathing, but you can also just pay 2 life for each of those +1s. So this helps us out in multiple ways for Greven. Before we swing with Greven, if we know we're going to get through, we can set ourselves up for a huge play. We can pay 16 life into this to give it +8/+0. Then we attack with Greven and we can sacrifice this. By doing so, we draw cards equal to its power, which again would be 9, and we only lose 1 life, which is its toughness. So in total, we lost 17 life, which would make Greven a 22/5. And again, by getting Greven through, that's going to be game over for one opponent. So this little 2-mana creature can help us not only draw a ton of cards, but also take out an opponent. And then Wall of Blood is somewhat similar. It's a 0/2 wall that has pay 1 life. Wall of Blood gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So with this again, we can figure out the precise amount of life that we want to lose and whether we're sacrificing this or not. Again, we've got plenty of ways in this deck that make it really easy for us to turn Greven into a one-shot kill. And we can make it even easier with things like Temur Battle Rage and Tainted Strike. Temur Battle Rage says target creature gains double strike until end of turn. It's also got Ferocious. That creature also gains trample until end of turn if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. Greven's power is obviously already greater than 4, and it's going to be even bigger when we pump him. So now we essentially just have to pay 6 life, get Greven's power up to 11, and now it's hitting for 22. Or, you know, if we need to hit for more because of that trample, we can. And then Tainted Strike is a really sneaky way to take out an opponent. It says target creature gets +1/+0 and gains Infect until end of turn. So with this, if we were getting Greven through, we would just have to pay 4 life to give it +4/+0, making it a 10/5 until end of turn with Infect, and again, it just takes 10 poison counters to take out an opponent. So yeah, these cards can be really sneaky and help us out when an opponent thinks that they might be safe. Suddenly, they're not. But we even have a card that's even better at making sure that none of our opponents are safe. And that card is going to be the Golden Pig of this deck, which is the #1 card out of our 99. And the Golden Pig for this deck is Kediss Emberclaw Familiar. Kediss is a 1/1 elemental lizard that costs 1 in a red. It says whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. So yeah, now just with 1 attack with this in play, we can take out all 3 opponents. That is an incredibly powerful thing. Now, I urge you to keep one thing in mind though. Though the actual player that we hit with Greven is combat damage, so commander damage does apply, it won't apply to the other 2 opponents. The damage to the other 2 opponents is not combat damage, therefore it's not counted towards commander damage. Now, that doesn't mean that this still isn't incredibly powerful. I mean, let's just say that every player is at 40 life. Let's also say that we have one of our life control cards in play, like Mischievous Poltergeist. Even if 2 of our opponents have a good amount of defense up, if 1 player doesn't, we just swing at them. We pay 35 life, and all of a sudden, Greven is hitting for 40 damage. Now, yes, that is way overkill on the player we're actually hitting because, again, that is commander damage, and we only needed 21. But that 40 damage is, of course, going to be enough to take out our other 2 opponents, even though we didn't actually attack them. So yeah, Kediss can do a ton of work for this deck and make Greven even deadlier, and that's what makes it the Golden Pig. And actually, on top of all of this, it's really good with these upcoming cards. Which would be cards that give Greven lifelink, which is most definitely needed for this deck. Unexpected Fang says put a +1 counter and a lifelink counter on target creature. So Greven gets slightly bigger, which is nice, but now we're going to be gaining back a lot of life. In fact, we're going to be gaining back more life than we lost to pump Greven. And with Kediss in play, well, we're gaining back an absurd amount of life. So we're also going to be running Loxodon Warhammer, which is an equipment that says equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has trample and lifelink. So again, this helps us out in multiple ways, pumping Greven, helping him get extra damage through, and again, gaining us a lot of life. But we even have a way to take out an opponent and gain a ton of life in the process without even hitting them with something like Essence Harvest. It says target player loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So we essentially just lose a ton of life, pump Greven a ton, cast this, and then an opponent is very dead and we gain a lot of life. So everyone has fun. Oh, okay, except for that player that we just took out. Okay, we're the one having fun, all right? And speaking of fun, what is more fun than life swap cards like Profane Transfusion and Soul Conduit? Profane Transfusion says 2 target players exchange life totals. You create an XX colors horror artifact creature token where X is the difference between those players' life totals. And Soul Conduit has pay 6 and tap it. 2 target players exchange life totals. So essentially, we just lose an absurd amount of life to drop our life total down to almost nothing. Greven gets insanely large, and then we just, swap life totals with the player that has the most life. So they go down to almost no life, and then we can easily take them out, or more likely another opponent, because, Greven is going to be able to take out pretty much anyone at that point. And with Profane Transfusion, we get a nice giant token as well to help us out. So yeah, life swap cards in this deck are effective and fun, just for us. Next up though, let's talk about some creatures that can help us refill our hand in a very effective way. Daring Fiend Bonder is a 5/1 human warlock with haste and it attacks each combat if able. And by paying 1 and a black, we exile from our graveyard and put an indestructible counter on target creature. We activate this ability only anytime we cast a sorcery. So essentially, Daring Fiend Bonder wants to die for us so we can utilize it to give, our commander indestructible. So we attack with our commander, we sacrifice this, draw 5 cards, we only lose 1 life, and yeah, then we can just, give it indestructible. Another efficient way to draw cards is something like Lightning Skelemental. It's a 6-1 trample and haste, and when it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards 2 cards. At the beginning of your end step, sacrifice Lightning Skelemental. So if we want to dish out damage with this and make someone discard some cards, we can. But since we've got to sacrifice it anyway, well, we can just sacrifice with Greven if we really need to draw those cards. And yeah, drawing 6 cards for just 3 mana and only losing 1 life is pretty fantastic. Or how about some repeatable card draw with Thunderblast? It's a 7/5 elemental with haste that has trample as long as it's got a -1/-1 counter on it. And it will definitely get that -1/-1 counter at some point because it's got persist. So although this one costs 5 mana, we're going to be sacrificing it, drawing 7 cards, losing 2 life, and then it comes back. So then it's a 6/1 next time we attack, drawing 6 cards and losing 1 life. So yeah, in total, 13 cards for 5 mana and 3 life lost. I will take that deal any day of the week. And another deal I'll take is making the most out of my opponent's creatures with Captivating Crew. By paying 3 and a red, we gain control of target creature and opponent controls until end of turn. We untap that creature, gains haste until end of turn, activates ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. So we can take our opponent's creatures, swing with our commander, and put them to good use by, again, sacrificing them, drawing some cards, and losing some life. So yeah, Greven can be very effective and very brutal. But now it's time for me to wrap things up and give you my final thoughts on this commander. With just a little setup, Greven can easily one-shot an opponent, and with just a little more setup, it can one-shot all 3 of your opponents at once. On top of that, this commander can draw you an absurd amount of cards, and again, with a deck setup in the correct way, you can gain a lot of life as well. Greven is a very much high-risk, high-reward commander, and if your opponents don't deal with it, it can very much take them out very quickly. Again, a huge thank you to Liam for picking this commander. I had a blast building around Greven. If you're looking to play this deck, consider joining the amazing PlayEDH Discord. It's a great way to play Commander over webcam. In the description below, you'll find their Discord invite link as well as the tier that this deck has been approved at next to the deck list. So if you want to pick it up and play it as is, you can, and be sure to read their welcome information for more details. And with that, this show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again, and have a good one.